I'm sure there's been obviously a lot of ongoing discussion around vesting terms and sort of investor behavior. We've obviously been listening to this over the last little while. And as you can imagine, in order to sort of improve upon those issues, it would take a bit of time to reach out, discuss with investors, various options, and get alignment and get sort of broader consensus, right? Especially, we're really talking about the major sort of token holders here, right? So we've taken the time, spent a lot of time, a lot of like sort of odd hours in sort of getting to a point where I think by and large our investors sort of support um any measures that would improve our emissions, that would improve, our market performance, and also, so, any measures to support what we're doing, and obviously, you know, community intentions. And so, obviously, I think everybody, is aware or should be aware that, a proposal has been put up. It has been informed by, I would say, the a lot of the thinking that's gone on in the discussions with, major token holders. And by and large, I would say that there is alignment over extending these vesting periods to effectively doubling them to 2 years for investors and 4 years for core team. And so, there are uh, cliffs that are also being proposed. Uh, that should give the project, um, I think, some breathing room, to kind of in the market, and that should also be, kind of, I think, favorable. Um, you know, Having said all that, I do think that there's a great deal of irrationality that sort of enters when you are in a bear market, right? And so, eh, if you look across, all of crypto, you're generally seeing 50%, off the top over the last like few weeks, right? Including ETH, right? And so, our project was no different. And in fact, we were defying gravity for some time. So I do think that, some of this, needs to be put in context of market conditions. Um, but in general, as a team, we want to support the community. We're here to kind of build this project with you. And we've got a ton of, I think, very sort of valuable initiatives and projects that we'll be rolling out. We'll be talking about that today. And, regardless of, our view really is that regardless of like how the token is performing at any given point in time, at some point our treasury is going to be very significant. And the market is just going to recognize that. It's almost like pointing to the scoreboard, right? And so we'll build the value of this project, and we're very confident about that. We've got some really, really significant partnerships, relationships, with groups that are very, very well established. And we have those for a reason, right? We're a super smart team. I would say we've got like super dynamic people like Sammy, and then you've got like maybe like, guys that are a little bit more like OGs like me and Merrick. But between us, I mean, there's a recipe of success that I think you can depend on. And certainly, a lot of our partners, and a lot of our community also recognize that. And fortunately, we also have these investors that have been willing to kind of accommodate, um, and support us as well. So that's kind of the sort of summary. I think, I'm not too sure there's more to elaborate on that, but I imagine there will be questions. We're obviously happy to take those questions at the end. But I think this is like, something that's very favorable. And, I think I speak for the team when I say I think there's a lot of exciting things coming up. I can't wait to, we can't wait to talk to you about, how we're building value as opposed to, market conditions and vesting terms and things like that. So, I think this will be rectified in short term. Not everybody's going to be happy. Not everybody's going to be completely happy, but I think we, by and large, have the support of like, most people, most stakeholders, ranging from community to the diverse group of sort of investors. So I'll sort of leave it there. I'm sure there'll be questions. Like I said, we were happy to answer them. Che, maybe we go on to the next item, and continue.
Yeah, thank you, Ethan. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them in the community call. Will be the best just to address them after we all had the chance to kind of update you guys on what's going on, right? Because a bunch of these questions might just be answered, based off our agenda for today. So the next thing I wanted to touch upon would be our forum and essentially what's going on with with governance and like what's the latest updates on these things. So I would begin with the Treasury proposal. That's something that we have been had in the works for a minute now. We're trying to figure out like what's the best approach to managing exactly like our stablecoin position. And for now, we figured that the best split would be like a 50-50 split between Frax and USDC and Frax and DLPs. We were in close contact with Black Swan, who we hired. No, we haven't hired him yet. He's up for proposal on the Commonwealth, but we strongly support his intention to be the Treasury lead. And guys, I mean, feel free to drop your comments and concerns in the forum. We'll take all that all into consideration. Like nothing is set in stone for now, but we would see that the risk to reward ratio on those proposals as being like we would feel like the best currently considering our stablecoin treasury. Then we also have the sub-DAO proposal, which kind of like stems from the treasury, right? We're trying to elect the treasury lead, but we need to hash out the exact kind of vision behind having the sub-DAO proposals and how we're planning to have them being implemented. We had the forum post up there for a while, but I saw that there's a bunch of questions about like clarifications and execution, like how exactly are we trying to implement these sub-DAOs and what's the level of decentralization we're trying to achieve with this. So I'm about to finish up with the proposal. Will be up by the end of the day today, and the expectation is to have it on Snapshot on on Monday. If there's any kind of questions regarding maybe additional edits on the current version, we can of course add that over the weekend and then postpone the snapshot if everybody would agree with the current kind of implementation of how we're trying to have this sub-DAO set up. We can get it up on Monday. Then we have two kind of new proposals that we just got out with essentially buying our liquidity through Olympus. I mean, we have a very close relationship with them through Redacted, considering Redacted is the official sub-DAO of Olympus. So currently, I mean, we're paying very high LP staking rewards. So we're just trying to limit our operating expenses, and we want to own our own liquidity. It's the current amount is still up for consideration. Like right now, we're looking at something as selling bonds for up to 2 million of NUO, but that is up for consideration. I just saw a bunch of people talk about maybe increasing that value. So we'll be talking more about that, and maybe we want to own a bigger chunk of our liquidity. That's all up to consideration, and we'll be listening to you guys closely to see your concerns and your comments. Then we also have the VE new implementation, the Vote escrow model. We're essentially trying to transition to this model long term. Would take a bunch of the supply of the market and reward token holders based on their conviction, right? So, but we know we are aware that we are not a curve. We don't have a gauge. So we want to make sure that we tailor the changes that we're trying to implement to New Order in particular, and that's why we're trying to mingle with this potion model where long-term lockers would essentially be eligible for future incubated project whitelists and airdrop opportunities. There's still a bunch of exact specifics to hash out here, so that's still an ongoing consideration. I mean, feel free to jump in on the forum. We're pretty active, and we try to ensure that we seek alignment with the community, and we see exactly what we want to happen. With this kind of locking mechanism, is we just don't want to copy the thing, and then like copy pasting is really not something we're trying to do, considering like we are a completely different we have a completely different tokenomic model, completely different mission with New Order. And we also have an Arbitrum and Avalanche liquidity deployments, and I will let Sammy has shed a bit more light on the rationale that we have behind it.
Yeah, so I proposed two things yesterday for just building liquidity. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah. So I think one thing I noticed was that like obviously people want to be trading the token like on like low gas environments, and like the simple solution is to do what we proposed, which is just make a multi-chain LP, right? And just like share some of the rewards over there to build that out. And talk with some of like these dexes that live on these chains to like help bootstrap those LPs as well. Just so that people like on other chains can get exposure to the token as well. Like obviously ETH gas fees are a bit insane, and I think like yesterday with that WTF airdrop, like it kind of like at least like for me proposing it, like that was like the final nail in the coffin almost. Like gas fees are just a bit too insane, so that's why I proposed the multi-chain LPs. Avalanche and Arbitrum was a personal choice. Like I'd be happy to hear what other chains you guys would want to see the coin on. I don't think like we're limited to those two chains. Like I think that those are the two chains that just make the most sense, um because they're obviously like they're DeFi tailored, and I think those ones will succeed in the new year. So if you go through the proposal, there's beyond just like the initial bootstrap of the LP, there's a second part about uh launching like mini multi-sigs um with some funds on those chains as well. And I think each one of them will have like a KPI attached before the fund comes along. And the KPI will sort of be to launch, either one or two Arbitrum native projects and one or two native Avalanche projects. Like obviously, um, this won't like happen in a year, but I think what I'm basically proposing is like that we just set aside some funds to launch projects that are native to these chains, right? Because like the DeFi projects on these chains are doing pretty well, pretty successful, and I think um, it probably makes sense for us to be building there, right? Like I think there's always been a goal for this project since day one to be chain agnostic, and everything we've been doing is on Ethereum so far, right? So I think this is like a good step forward and like an easy way to just like one, get the token trading somewhere else, and two, start building stuff on other chains. So that was the first proposal. The second one I proposed was shifting the Ethereum LP to an Olympus Pro program. So for those who aren't familiar, like a quick TLDR on Olympus Pro is, right now what we're doing is people are LPing and they're farming it, right? And, eventually like every project, like rewards will slow down. And what they do is they just take the LP and then go somewhere else, and then we're left with an illiquid token. So we're basically renting liquidity, right? And obviously that's not sustainable. So with Olympus Pro, what people would do if they choose to LP is they would bond it to our treasury, right? So we would basically be taking NUO out of the treasury. I mean, in this case, we have NUO allocated towards like the liquidity mine, right? So we won't take it out of the treasury, but we'll take it out of the liquidity mine tranche, and we'll buy it back off of like these LP buyers on like a discount and like a vesting, right? And instead of people farming the token, they'd basically be acquiring the token from this tranche by giving us the LP. And then this way, what we can ensure is that that LP now belongs to us. We can manage it. We can go and even like farm it and get stuff like sushi rewards on it. Um, and even when rewards dry up for other pools and such, like that LP still belongs to us, like ensuring the token stays liquid. Um, so those are the two things I proposed yesterday regarding like liquidity and treasury. I think they're both like, just like they're pretty obvious things actually, like these are things that now it's been, I'd say, like a few weeks after launch. Like I think it's time for us to start doing stuff like this.
Yeah, great explanation of those things. I mean, there's still a bunch of conversation going on. So, if, as Sammy said, like these are kind of personal preferences in terms of L2s and Avalanche, right? So please feel free to drop a comment and let us know, like maybe what your expectation is or where would you would want us to go. And if Eden, if you could continue off with the Outlier Ventures Basecamp and kind of leak some alpha to us, what's going on there and what are we expecting?
Yeah, sure. So, um, as you know, one of the big strategies that we have to sort of scale our um, venture portfolio is to run basically accelerator programs with cohorts of, somewhere ranging somewhere between, hopefully 8 to 10. I think that's the target. So the application process for DeFi Basecamp will open up Monday. Um, and I think we are expecting and targeting 100 plus applications over the next like 6-7 weeks. There will be you could say a selection process in which our venture sub DAO will basically allow our DAO to kind of get exposure and some decisioning around what what should go into this cohort. Um, I think one of the things that I could talk about that would be, I think, exciting is just in general, like what this base camp is sort of targeting, right? And so, I think the strength of New Order is that we believe, like, through our internal incubation work, that we are on the forefront of DeFi and can continue to build projects that will, push DeFi forward. I think the sort of exploration end of where DeFi could go is one of the purposes of like Basecamp for us, right? So, like we've got a thesis about DeFi expanding into new areas, and certainly, one of the strengths of Outlier Ventures is they are on the forefront of, open metaverses. And, we do think that DeFi can expand into areas of gaming and, be applied to NFTs, to meme coins, to, um, obviously various like use cases, related to metaverses. And so Basecamp will be this sort of this uh, basically this strategic initiative for us where not only can we sort of scale our venture portfolio, but we can also start to um, diversify, based on thesis as well. And so this this term called metafy, which is sort of like, kind of a thesis that, we're sharing with Outlier Ventures is, is one of the areas that we will be looking, seeking applications for. Um, Obviously, we're very keen on sort of machine learning and data optimization as it pertains to DeFi. Um, we're looking at other areas, other opportunities where permissioned pools, can be sort of, or I should say, protocols can be developed from, already established permissionless pools or DeFi markets. And that's something that might be appealing to sort of institutional groups, right? Um, and so there's a variety of, it'll come out next week, but I think you'll see, you know, um, some interesting sort of areas in which we are sort of asking for applications for. Um, and I think the other thing I'll mention is that there will be a proposal going up around like basically I think there'll be some questions around like so like what is the the let's say the operating costs or the program costs, like, like what is our effectively like our investment in this. And so we'll be putting up a proposal that will basically sort of outline like, what it is that we're sort of like putting into this. And then, in return, like what are we getting, right? And so, what are we getting is, like in general, we'll get 1 to 1.5 uh, token supply of these projects. And so that gives us some nice exposure to 8 to 10 projects like very quickly. So between now and this program will start in April, end in June. I think we have about with 12 roughly 10 to 12 projects that are already sort of like scheduled, you could say. And very likely there will be more based on some of the internal incubation opportunities that are sort of being organized and assessed and ultimately will be sort of proposed to the community. So this should be like super, super exciting. Maybe, I think like Outlier Ventures is one of the leading blockchain venture firms, in Europe, and is the leading Web3 accelerator platform. So we're in really, really good company to be alongside like other major networks like Polkadot, Polygon, Filecoin that leverages this platform. It's not an open platform. It's one that, that they sort of select various groups, to kind of partner with. And we're really lucky to be there because those guys are very big players in the space. And, for us to leverage that already established platform, helps us scale very quickly. So we should be all very excited about that. There'll be tons of like, I think like marketing that'll go out around that. And then I think also it will, start to kind of lubricate our DAO a bit around like sort of actual venture decisions. So that's all upcoming. And yeah, I hope everybody's going to be super excited about it. And again, happy to take any questions, around that at the end.
Yeah, thank you, Eden. And I think it would be a good idea to also pivot a little bit towards our current incubating efforts and look into what's going on with HTO and Optify. If Merrick, you could give us an update what's going on with HTO, that would be great.
Yeah, thanks, Shay. So H2O, we've been sort of doing, a closed, I would call it alpha test. Like there have been community members involved in testing, the UI for H2O over the last couple of weeks. I think we've reached a stage where, we're sort of kind of, I would say, ready to go on the technical side. A lot of the let's call it bugs have been ironed out. We sort of synced up with. I guess I'll drop some alpha here too for all you joining the call. You know, we've gotten the green light from Ocean, and you know, also spoken with Reflexer to sort of do I would call it like a I would describe it as a staged launch, meaning that is going to be in stages, like a soft launch strategy that you know, is probably going to begin in early February with a I would say like a full launch with, like, you know, marketing and fireworks and, you know, all the pomp and you know, sort of towards the end of February. So you know, we're in a really good spot with H2O. It's very, very exciting time. I mean, as community members, like, you haven't really missed anything in the sense that you know, we're still going to be setting up the socials and the Discord, and you know, going to be sort of sharing our launch plans for H2O in probably in the next 10 days or so with you all. And sort of, you know, we've actually brought on someone to lead H2O full time, who you'll probably get to meet next time we have one of these calls. Yeah, it's an exciting time for H2O. So um, you know, we're kind of ready to go. Launch will be, you know, progressively done in February throughout that month.
Yeah, great. And then, you know, continuing on the topic, there's a bunch of different things happening with Redacted, and a bunch of interesting voting proposals and action items happening. So if Sammy, you could give us some alpha about what's going on with Redacted, and what's you know, what's kind of happening currently, you know, if there's anything planned for the future.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess since the last community call, um, Redacted has acquired Votimac, which is a similar to Vodium for Convex, if you're familiar. So basically, if people are, if projects want to bribe token holders for, um, yeah, if projects want to bribe token holders for like getting core reactors on Tokamak, then they can use the Votimac platform. And then there's a 5% fee on that, which goes back to the treasury and stakers. So that was the big news we had last week. This week, we're focused more on building out the liquidity pool. So we're doing things like a few different initiatives, like a 0% interest loan with Ohm to get that LP more liquid. Um, Doing a few things like taking the token to Polygon, looking at launching a Fax LP. So there's a few things we're doing on that front to build out the LP. That's mostly the focus this week. But yeah, I'd say governance wise, like we also have the Curvents um, seed round participation coming up, and a governance proposal to increase the CVX holdings through like some rate changes and changing the way we do bonding.
Yeah, it's great to hear. And also, can you shed some light on the partnership side of New Order, and what we have, what's the applications that we have going through, you know, and maybe some information to everybody here as well.
Yeah. So there's been a lot of projects coming through the incubator pipeline. A lot of them we're just trying to see like the fit, if they make sense to sort of come in now. Um, and work on launching them. Obviously, I think team is focused on getting Optify out the door, which is aiming for, you know, at the end of January, early February, and then the H2O project, which will be like mid-February, I'm assuming, great. Um, and I think once those two are out the door, we can. Well, I mean, those ones are basically ready to go now, right? So we kind of have the capacity to bring on another project. Um, if it doesn't interfere with what we're doing with like the Basecamp program, which, you know, hopefully puts like a stamp of New Order on like at least 8 projects, right? Um, so I think with the incubator, we're talking with a few projects. Like I think I've brought up a few of them like in the chat before. So Cap Finance, Insure DAO, if you're familiar. Um, and I mean, there's a few others that said they don't want to be like named and stuff, right? So those are like the two public ones. I think insurance is like an interesting like path for us to go down at this point. More importantly than insurance, like derivatives, I think we've been saying that since day one. So I think Cap is like an interesting protocol in that sense, where you can do, you know, up to like 50x leverage on Arbitrum, and sort of backs up what I was saying about like getting some funds on like these other chains so we can like, you know, branch it out. I think the reason we chose Avalanche and Arbitrum was because we were getting a lot of applications from projects on those chains, right? And we want to make sure that we can, or like we're in a position to support them, right? So yeah, I think that's about it.
Yeah, thank you. And I would say like I mean we were going for 35 minutes now. I don't know if you guys are tired, but we can kind of close off on an update on Optify. And there was a bunch of questions regarding Optify has been around for quite a minute with their beta and alpha vaults. And if Eden, you could tell us a bit more about like what's our relationship with Optifine and how were we able to incubate them and help them come to market. That would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, so I guess one of the things about New Order that may not be widely known is that we had been sort of working together as a group for quite a long time, like since the beginning of the year. And while we were working with
last year.
right, and while we've been working with a lot of communities, putting on hackathons and just in general, like trying to add value by working with as many projects as possible. um we came across Fazil, who was working on, I think something that was like we thought was like super exciting, which was really like bringing sort of like um, capital markets types efficiencies to yield aggregation, right? To the DeFi space, and doing it by applying sort of machine intelligence to to yield aggregating, right? So basically, like creating a protocol that is integrated with um, you know several other protocols, and applying machine learning to find the best yield for a particular asset in real time. And so, this is like stemming back to March, where we basically were, you know, helping out on a variety of fronts, ranging from just sort of conceptually, how would this work, sort of, to like what vaults, what assets would are sort of most meaningful, to some of the marketing and community end. And so there's been a relationship that's sort of developed over like quite a long period. And it's sort of like you can almost think of it like Silicon Valley type of like collaboration, right? Like, it was very in the beginning, like very much just like, helping hands, right? And open doors. Um, so, I think what's been great is that, we've sort of established a token swap with Optify, and there is New Order, has the ability to access some exclusive vaults that would be applying Optify's technology. And so you can imagine these vaults would will be revenue generating, and I think could be quite a asset for our treasury in sort of developing revenue in the form of stable coins, and potentially like other assets as well. So we've got a deal with them where there's like a basically like a 1% or I'll have to check the paperwork. I think it's a 1% or 0.5% um, token swap, but the deal is a lot more around you know exclusive vaults that could be um, potentially deployed by New Order um, for our DApp marketplace that we want to eventually sort of start to evolve once we've got a bunch of projects. So I mean that's sort of like the sort of like history, you could say, history and relationship that we've had with Optifine. Now I think they're at a very critical point, exciting point where they're about to launch soon. We've made a bunch of introductions to various sort of launch pads, and so word will, of course, the word will be you know we'll get out on like when and where that's going to happen. But I mean, it is right now, we're looking at late January, early February for Optify to launch. So that should be super, super exciting. And again, like, one of many, many projects that will be sort of adding value to our treasury, um, both in the short term and the long term. Um, and I think also, like, I know I'm going on here, but, I think it's kind of important to understand that, like, there's the whole sort of treasury building end of what we're doing, but there's very much a value prop that gets established by launching projects and having communities that sort of intersect and stack upon one another, right? And so that gives us the increasing ability to create network effects for these projects, for our own marketplace later on, and also the bootstrap community, which is very valuable for new projects and founders. Um, so first Redacted, Optify, next H2O, right? So you can kind of see where this is going. I think it'll be like a very, very um, robust and exciting, uh, value flow, coming from this ecosystem that we're creating.
Yeah, and I think it's probably reasonable to start opening the floor for questions that you guys have regarding, whichever topic, and maybe something that we have discussed wasn't absolutely clear, and you'd love to clarify and get all the
Yeah,
questions answered.
Jay, before before we go there, I just want to maybe re-announce something that we announced in general. The proposal to give single stake vault, the Nuo vault, the single staking vault, give those folks governance power. People that are staking their equivalent voting power to people that are staked in the governance contract. And since that passed, I want to give the credit to Arjan. He's been working very hard. I've been working with him to get that implemented, and it's live now. And we were testing the UI there. There's a couple of small bugs, but now all the bugs have been ironed out. It looks like it's working fine. So just wanted to mention everyone on the call that that's been done.
Yeah. So, I mean, after that, now we can open up for questions for sure. So make sure to drop it in the community call text channel, and we'll bring it up here.
Chase, sorry, one more thing I think that we should mention is New Order is scaling up partly because we've got a ton of things that we're trying to, basically ship. So there's like a wide variety of like roles available, ranging from marketing to venture to, of course, development. And so, for those that are interested, definitely reach out. We're looking to kind of build our team out a bit more, so that we could sort of, obviously like ship and execute faster. The other thing I would mention is that we've got like a few people with COVID on our team, and so we we're also a little understaffed for that reason as well. So we have been sort of meeting our deadlines, but it's been really round the clock for us. So in that sense, if there's anybody that you think is very talented in the crypto space, if it's you, definitely reach out. We are looking to add to the team so that we can, move and shake faster.
Yeah, well, certainly. I have also had a couple DMs from you guys about maybe like helping out with proposal drafting and governance.
And
Uh, yeah.
sorry, Che, and to be clear, like, uh, not look. We want contributors, obviously, in the DAO. We want contributors, but these roles need to be full time because we're really talking about like laser focused execution. And so we of course welcome and value like contributors, part time contributors, but the to be clear, like this is really about like full time new order, you know, focus. So that's probably worth mentioning.
Yeah, I definitely agreed. And if you guys have any recommendations, maybe from your circle or yourself that are interested in joining us full time, yeah, make sure to shoot me a message and just DM me and tell me about yourself, and we can definitely hop on the call. DMs are open for all of us, so we'll be happy to hear from you and have a conversation and see how you can be a part of our team for sure. Yeah, and if you have any questions, I mean, we probably came to a logical conclusion. If you have any questions, I'm happy to bring it on. If we don't, then we can conclude, and maybe you'll have something brewing, later in the day. You can always tag me in general and ask me as well.
Yeah, if anybody would like to join the stage, ask any questions, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, I see somebody's asking about the Telegram channel. So right now we have just an announcement channel. We do have plans to make the general chat in Telegram. I would say that that's down the pipeline. That's something
Yeah.
we're interested in. So
Yeah, so just with regards to that, so like it's a little ironic, I guess. We actually decided not to have a Telegram channel initially because it just tended to be generally Telegram channels tend to be just token talk, and
Like
and,
moon talk, this Lambo
right.
talk.
Yeah, and that's kind of not really, like we want to be talking about like DeFi and dev work and like how are we building the future? And so we made that decision early on not to have a Telegram, but ironically now we're opening up a Telegram so that like maybe those type of conversations will find a home. So that's some of the rationale behind it.
yeah. Also, there's a question about more of the kind of nitty-gritty about Outlier Ventures and how is the partnership. Was how were we able to secure it, and what's our relationship on a more deeper level?
My mic on? Yeah, okay. Um, yeah, so what is our relationship at a more deeper level? Well, I think I guess for those who aren't familiar with Outliers history, like and they're one of the first sort of crypto blockchain investors going way back to 2014. I actually spent most of my time in crypto with Outlier um, as a partner and as head of crypto. So I built the crypto economics practice there. We basically we partnered with Imperial College London and their Center of Blockchain and Cryptocurrency Research. I've done a lot of work, the research work there. A lot of it's been actually like kind of very well recognized. So, personally, there's a very strong relationship I have with Outlier where we've sort of accomplished some great things together. And there's a really great working relationship there. Now, Outlier has actually grown into like quite a major player. I mean, it's an organization that's in sort of like, let's say like over $1 billion valuation in equity, like that type of size and magnitude. So for us to partner with such a big group with such a huge reach and such a huge established Web3 accelerator program, right? That is again like a big opportunity for us. So over the last 2 years, they've built a 12-week virtual program that basically takes founders and teams through legal compliance, token economics, some go-to-market strategy, partnership opportunities, fundraising. And they've sort of established themselves as sort of like the like WebC, like the Y Combinator or Techstars of Web3. And so if you look at what they've been good at over the past few years, they've been very strong at like Web3 infrastructure, with sort of decentralized data economies, and now sort of leading the way like in the metaverse's sort of thesis or opportunities. And where they haven't been like despite all the resources that they've had, they haven't had like I would say the same focus on DeFi. And so there was an opportunity for New Order to come in and bring our community, our sort of expertise, know-how, relationships, in building, basically the future of DeFi, and actually, team with them and their Basecamp program to offer a DeFi Basecamp, right, which had been a void. So that sort of was the thinking, that there was sort of a strategic need on their end that we were able to kind of like help them establish. And for us, like it's this great ability to sort of scale very quickly with basically like programming and infrastructure in place for us to leverage. So yeah, I mean, I hope that answers your question. Sort of carry goes through some of the history, but also like I think some of the advantages and strengths of having Outlier as a partner.
Yeah, great. And there's also a question about just the kind of value accumulation to the new token holder, and I think I can tackle that. So the kind of idea is, right, we have this Commonwealth forum post right now talking about maybe introducing that VE system, right, that I mentioned a bit earlier, kind of tailoring, kind of using the vote escrow locking model to take a bunch of new off the supply, and kind of give it a larger value, right, in terms of maybe introducing a potion, right, like introducing maybe a whitelist opportunity or some sort of a treasury rev share with the stakers. That's kind of the next step we're trying to take, right? But there's also a lot of considerations, a lot of difficulty in tinkering with something as as big as this kind of this value proposition, right? Because we're trying to establish the biggest treasury in DeFi to be able to incubate a project of any size and accelerate project of any size, and never to be constrained by resources, and always be able to execute whichever project comes in, right? And then if we start to kind of divest our treasury into into like more intricate and more larger revenue share agreements with the stakers, and have a bunch of the yield, essentially taking out of the treasury, we're losing out on the compounding effects. And I mean, this could be detrimental to kind of the long-term viability of our project, and long-term viability of, ensuring that we grow the treasury, and then we are able to allocate those resources to, regardless of the magnitude of the project that comes in. So that's a consideration that's quite big that, you know, it's still ongoing, right? We don't want to rush any decision choices. So yeah, feel free to jump in on the VE forum post and or DM me. You know, I would love to have that conversation. You know, there's a bunch of considerations. So I hope I kind of tackled your question here. I know I'm rambling on a little bit, but
So,
just a
Jay,
topic.
I'll cut you off from rambling just quickly. That was a great answer, by the way. I just want to add a little bit to that. I think there might be a bit of a misconception going around that, you know, I know there has been a few projects, sort of like, you know, let's call them like launch pad type projects. You know, that the primary purpose, I think, of people holding those tokens is they expect airdrops, right? You buy the token, you get airdropped. You get airdropped. Usually, I would say fairly low quality projects, right? Not to say that our token holders will not receive airdrops, but it's going to be on a project by project basis. For example, H2O has in its token economics, you know, as far as the governance token is concerned, I think I don't want to state exact numbers, but there's a few percentage there. You know, that's been, we can go look in the Git book, but you know, there's a few percent there that has been allocated to airdrop to you know, New Order, you know, essentially like the community members, right? So, I mean, there is that aspect. I don't think it's the prime. I don't think expecting airdrops is the primary, you know, let's say, you know, purpose of joining New Order.
Yeah. I mean, that's a very important consideration. I see, Eden, you also want to say something, right?
Yeah, well, I was going to say we have somebody with their hand up, so
Oh, okay.
let's bring them up.
Yeah. Hey, Tom, if
Hey,
you're
Tom.
How are you all doing?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, great. Love what you guys are doing. I've only discovered the project a couple of days ago. So it's great to hear everything that's going on. I just have like a couple of questions. One is like, how aligned is your personal like revenue model, your kind of income revenue model to like the investors? So for example, if you're getting paid in tokens, I guess, will be more aligned with token holders in their value from the project. And then the other one is, because like you said, you get a lot of kind of, I don't know, you get a lot of these like DuckDAO and like projects that essentially pump out projects just to like generate their own like profits, like, and they're not very high quality. How will you prevent yourselves from becoming one of those type of projects?
Yeah, good questions. So your first question was like, how aligned are we with investors?
Yeah.
So we, you know, I mentioned this on the last community call. We wanted to have a very diverse group of investors. They're not all VCs. There's, you know, I think, you know, as an example, Near Foundation is an investor. We've got, you know, you could say some DeFi leaders. You know, yeah, I think it's kind of known that DCF God, for example, is an investor. You know, we also like branched out and thought like, how can we sort of decentralize, you know, this private round? And so we went out and also worked with, you know, a handful of crypto communities, international crypto communities. And so, you know, we've we for the most part, the investors have been aligned. Like, for the most part, they haven't been selling off. It just so happens that there's a handful that have been, and a handful that sort of are more like communities that have been sort of like, you know, involved in this activity. So, you know, in basically this last week's conversations, I think I would fairly confidently say that like, you know, everybody is aligned, you know, in accepting the new sort of vesting and cliffs. You know, we've gotten like, you know, a lot of support from our investors. And in fact, we have asked for buybacks from some of those that have sold off, and we have received some buybacks from some of those that have sold off. And I won't share all of them, but we'll share a couple of those, like transactions in Discord maybe this afternoon. So, I think that there should be an increased level of confidence in investor alignment. But I also think that what hasn't been, what we really need to take into account is the state of the market right now, and the fact that most assets are down, or have been down 50%, right? And again, we were defying gravity at one point, and so I think misalignment has been a little overstated, but nonetheless, we want to make sure that everybody's confident about this project, and we went out and sort of made the efforts to kind of, get everybody more aligned. And not everybody's going to be perfectly happy, but I think we should all feel pretty confident about where we're at right now. Your second question was about the quality of projects, right? And so I think in general, we've got a strategy of developing or almost like co-developing projects with other projects, right? So as Redacted was launched as a sub DAO of Olympus. H2O is being launched with Ocean and Reflexer. And I think, this is I think very strategic way for us to ensure not just quality, but also something that solves sort of a cold start problem where you have an intersection of communities getting behind a particular protocol, right? So I think there is this hesitancy of just launching anything, and in particular launching something that doesn't have a very, very sort of strategic launch with other partners and solving I think a important problem, or creating just a great sort of opportunity through some financial engineering. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. And those are good, good
Thank
questions.
you.
Yeah.
Yes, thanks very much.
Yeah, I think I'll add something on to what you said, Eden, about the second part, like the second part of the question. So I guess the way things like DuckDAO and stuff work is it's basically like they were basically getting paid to like work with a lot of these projects, right? And I think what we have in order is like a deeper due diligence process, and a much more like, for example, like the next project that we choose to incubate will be decided by you guys, not like the core team, right? So like I think like the way we've set up like the due diligence and onboarding process for a new project is a lot more transparent and more in like your guys' hand than ours, right? So I think that's like the only thing I'll add on to what Ian said.
Yeah, and I guess like Spider-Man said, with great power comes a great responsibility, right? So I at the end of the day, it's really going to be up to the community to kind of keep those values about building long-term value with quality projects.
And you gotta stay bullish, right? When the devs are making Spider-Man references. So I think that's a that's a good place for us to kind of conclude here. And if I don't see at least any hands, just we've been on for 1 hour. It would be great to let people go. If
Yeah, I got to get back to coding. I'm like kind of panicking. Good to go.
Yeah, so I'm sure we all have things to do. So I would say it's a good place to conclude, and we'll have a recording as well. Even if you have anything to add, any last thoughts, and I think we can go.
No, just again, appreciate everybody's support. It's a down market. I don't think we should be concerned about the market. I think we're shipping. I think there's a lot of exciting stuff coming out, and we're happy that you're sort of on this journey with us. We're going to be changing the future of what venture models, how venture models should operate. So, we're happy to have you guys. Appreciate like this community, and looking forward to all of your contributions.
Yeah, last thing, I just want to apologize to everybody for not getting back to DMs. I'm once again buried in DMs because I had my head in code.
All right, and on that note, I guess everybody have a good day, and if anything, yet again, DMs are always open.
Bye, everybody.
Bye bye.
Bye.